Good afternoon, everyone. David DuByne here from Adapt 2030 TV and the Mini Ice Age Conversations podcast series. Attack of the debt tsunami. Global debt going to reach $277 trillion with a T dollars by the end of the year. But don't worry, your fiat's going to hold value. Snow totals 15x normal in some parts of the U.S. Record-breaking cold smashing thousands of temperatures northeast U.S. And the wine windows are back open in Italy. In this day and age, it's so important to keep your body functioning at optimal performance. And collagen may be the closest thing we get to a real fountain of youth. After all, collagen is the most abundant protein in your body and essentially the glue that holds it all together. When you're middle-aged, you're only producing half of the collagen that you did in your youth. My focus is about digestive health because the change in our diets from foods being unavailable, moving to seasonal availability of foods, and the entire spectrum of availability of foods changing. There's so much more to talk about with the benefits of collagen. You can visit healthwithadapt2030.com to learn more. The link's in the description box below. And with the illusions and trickery that we see in today's world, here's another one to add to your list. Debt tsunami. With all this never-ending money printing from all the governments across the planet, do you really think nothing's going to happen to the value of currency? $277 trillion. That's a T. World record amounts of debt. But don't worry, nothing will happen. Your fiat currency is going to stay stable and all the purchasing power is going to be included in there. And it's only going to be a 2% inflation rate. At least that's what they're telling you here publicly. Now digging into the GDP ratio here, what's undesirable of how much debt a country takes on versus how many products and services they produce, and then that amount as an aggregate for a total of what's sold or made in a country. And a study by the World Bank here shows that a ratio exceeding 77% for an extended period of time, adverse impact on economic growth and the economy in general. Let's read the fine print of the story here, CNBC. Among advanced nations, debt surging to 432% of GDP. That's about 6 times more than what's considered safe, stable growth. And if we look at the emerging markets, 248%, a little over 3.5 times stability. No wonder Turkey's having such a currency crisis, and I think the rest of the plan is going to follow. Debt reset inbound. And this makes sense with all the talk of a global reset at our doorstep. Now, this makes sense if you're going to structure an entire global economy on never-ending, expanding debt. And to these levels here, it's unsustainable. Has to be started over. And you can see why during all these grand solar minimums, there's an economic reset, food prices, and population migration during the same time. And the way that people interact and do business changes drastically into an entirely new system. Every grand solar minimum. We're in it again, and this all is right on cue for movement through now to 2024. There are vast changes from 2024 to 28 with the non-availability of foods and choices of foods that we'll see. And then as we exit that coming into 2032, 2035, how the world will restabilize into something brand new. Cryptocurrency, vertical indoor ag, an entire new spectrum of the way people are going to live their lives. Incredibly close to home again, world travel. They're looking at a 50% drop in that just in these next couple of years, permanent. So just the way our lives are going to be is going to be restructured. So when you see this great reset, this is all part of it. The finance would change anyway. Cycles in the sun on 400-year versus 11-year, like we see with the solar maximum, solar minimum. Larger cycles on the 400-year, solar maximum, solar minimum, grand solar minimum is where we're heading. Do a little more research on that. See what you find out. Grand solar minimum and the effects on it had society. Go back 4,000 years and you'll see the same things happen every single time. It is no surprise we're at the cusp of these changes again. And my opinion is governments are masking it so you won't get freaked out by the lack of food, because we need to eat every day, and I think that's one of the most important things. Money, you can do without that. Food, you cannot. And continuing along with the exponential rises in things unsustainable, How is it that areas in the United States, those U.S. snow totals are 15x the normal? And I thought, wow, I've been following a lot of snowstorms, but I didn't know it was 15x above. Sure enough, anywhere in that darker blue is 15, 10, 12, 13x what the normal ratios are. And you'll see coming into the green areas there, that's more stable. Not quite 2x, but in the normal range. Anywhere blue, abnormal. Now, a lot of ski resorts are picking up and reporting on this news. And why is it that we're getting climate news from ski resorts? And why not mainstream publications that should be talking about the exceptional amounts of snow and the way jet streams have shifted? But no, we need to come to recreational media to find the true news. I think there's a disconnect. I've left everything linked in the description box below, and these totals are changing by the day, and you can see the 2020 averages in blue. And then if we jump over to the Northeast U.S., there's been more than 1,000 all-time cold records broken, and these are mainly the century mark and a little bit further back to 1880 being eclipsed. So when you see these areas that are 12, 16 degrees Celsius below normal, that's far colder than the Fahrenheit equivalent. And it does keep rolling on. You know, these cosmic rays that are coming in, and right now we've reached the space age high for cosmic ray density, and even California was up 15% on the September measurements. And then we got Wellington here off the same news feed down in New Zealand. Cloudiest November ever. And we saw that in Russia last year, ever. Now we got these northeast states breaking with the polar records. We had all that incredible ice storms and polar vortices earlier in October across the West and Midwest. And we are repeating cycles of time. So if we look back in time, we'll start to see something that's very similar. Wine windows. Now these are from the 17th century, they're 1600s, used during the plague at that time, because again, it was their way of distancing seller versus purchaser. You would order your beverage of choice, and they would put it out through the window, hand only visible. That's the only contact that there was. And this article here, this is in Florence and written about by the Wine Window Association, which I didn't even know there was such a thing, but there are some epic photos in the Wine Window Association. Really well done, artistically crafted. And these are being used once again. Now, what are the chances of these same windows being used 400 years ago in the Maunder Minimum? Not used since, and suddenly we come into this new Grand Solar Minimum, the Eddy Grand Solar Minimum, and they're being used once more on a 400-year cycle. That is too coincidental for me to believe that natural factors are not at work here. And where nature goes, society goes. So if you have to get your supplies through a window, how prepared are you for supply chain disruptions and closure of stores in general? Long-term food storage, My Patriot Supply, and Adapt 2030, the 2-week or the 4-week emergency food supply. Great way to give yourself peace of mind that you have stored foods. The link's in the description box below. It's a great way to support the channel. Hope you got something out of the video, and I'll see you next time.